Obviously, we've talked about there we go. We've talked about the side panel approach, which I'm still going to present and get some feedback on in usertesting.com. I think I'm going to reduce some of the information here and just be sure that what I'm showing is a little more consistent with what we're probably going to offer out of the gate. And then for the actual detail view of the issue, probably something like this. I'm still kind of thinking through it, but I've added in the author and the status as well as the actual ID. Let me just quickly make sure I got the right prototype here, and I'll show you kind of what I'm thinking for this. Here we go. All right, so there we go. So maybe having little hovers that kind of show what these do. And when you click on it, for some reason, this is not working. But when you click on them, it kind of launches the panels that we had looked at before. So I'm going to test some of that. But then also the modal approach is kind of what I'm playing with now. And trying to think through what information is going to be most valuable. I still think that we need to have both the side panel sort of minimal view and then the larger detail view, even if the larger detail view ends up just being what's in the side panel, but in a full screen view. So I think there's still value in offering both, but it could be that it's the same stuff, just one's in more of a condensed form. I don't love this area right here. This is kind of where I was just before we started the conversation, was playing around with maybe a different way to show this information. But once I've kind of got that refined, I'm going to get these put in front of users on usertesting.com and get that feedback. My goal is to have that by the end of the day, these little tweaks refined, and to get it in people's hands and at least start getting some feedback. So I'll keep you all in the loop as I make progress there. But that's kind of what I've been working on yesterday and today, is just playing with some of these additional approaches.
Nice.
I don't like either.
You don't like either?
No, I don't like. I'm with you where you said you didn't like how like that little section was playing out.
I was thinking it needs like 1,000 more labels.
Well, and yeah, and actually, so this view, my thought with the labels was potentially condensing it into something kind of like this, where you see like a couple of labels or a label, and then you can click to expand and view like a little panel of all of them. But again, I don't know yet. I don't like the cluttered look of it, but what led me there was thinking about how Jira has theirs laid out. And one of the things that I like, and I think that Asana does this as well, is they have a very clear like 2-column layout that says title and then the title and then description and then the description. And, you know, each item has a clear label and then the content associated with it. And I do kind of like that. And by labels, of course, I mean something like status, labels, assignees, not our traditional view of labels. But I like that because it kind of gives you a quick at a glance understanding of what you can discard. If you're not interested in reading something, then you see the title and you can just move on, as opposed to having to stop and reflect, do I need to process this? Does this need to be something I need to worry about? So still playing with that, but yeah. But Gabe, you said you didn't like either, so I'd love to know a little bit more about that.
No, not either. Just like it's too busy for me.
At
least the way it's visually. Like if you want to keep labels, I would like make them gray and barely visible, or I don't know, just something so that it doesn't, you know. And the other thing I was gonna think about too is I would go ahead and design this with the idea of clearly showing or indicating what the type of planning object is, and then also status. I think if you think that like that way that we're presenting open will work once we get customizable statuses, then that's fine. But I think those are the things that at least like
I think that's a good. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, after we kind of get over the hump of getting epics on the types of issues, then I want to start working on the customizable statuses so that we can basically more easily build reports and also like manage workflows and stuff like that. So
okay, that's a good point.
I know their feedback too. after.
Yeah, please. No, please go ahead.
For me, just looking at this, I think it's the half and half layout that's bothering me, but this still feels overwhelming. Like I was hoping that like in this view, it would just be simple. I would be able to read the description, and like if I want to scroll down to comments, I could. But I feel like that like the sidebar might work well on the actual like detail page, like the URL page where you've got the width. Whereas with this, especially on my machine, would be really frustrating to have like that much going on in such a small space. It's like I'd almost want mine to go more towards a mobile stack where I could choose to scroll down to comments if I wanted to.
I'm glad you said that, because I actually started with that thought, and I thought about you when I was working on this and designed it so that it's a maximum width of 900 and possibly would even go smaller just to ensure that everything is addressed. But I agree. I think it's a lot to squeeze into a small space. So that kind of helps to validate my initial concern that maybe we should just do top to bottom layout similar to what we have now, but maybe even more simplified. What are both of your thoughts on showing like all this other stuff? Do we even need that in this view, or can we just put all of that in the detail view and keep this just title and description basics?
If you went your full width and you like Gray said, like Gabe said, if you could gray them out or have like a ... or something where it's less intrusive and they're still present and you could like click to see more, but they aren't like in your face to the same level, I think that could work.
Cool. That's good feedback. Thank you.
Hey, a few things. I don't ever want to go to a detail page again. Like at least have to leave my context. If you can like have a preview and then open up into the full view within like the to-dos or the board, you know,
I think you need it because you have to be like context won't be underneath when someone gets a link. Like in Notion, they have the full screen, which is like the main URL. If you ever open it over something else to not lose context, it goes into this, but you still retain like a URL, assuming someone isn't doing anything else, right? Like you weren't on this list paste, you weren't on the board, you just got the link to go look. So you kind of still need that grounded, I think, view where you've got the full width, you've got a normal page essentially.
Yeah, I just don't want to like, I guess the thing is like, I don't want to get to the point where if like I'm on a board, for example, and I want to work with an issue, that then I have to go and open the issue in another tab. Like as long as we don't ever have to do that. Like I don't care if
I think you need both though.
Like you have to,
because otherwise, like, would you always layer it over all of GitLab.com? Like you'd have to make the call of like, what do you show them under this when they weren't doing anything?
Yeah, there will be a detail page. Like if I go to an issue list, I maybe like, I don't know, we'll figure it out. But I wouldn't want like the detail page to look any different than what it would be like if I wanted to interact with the detail of an issue from a board. Does that make sense?
You just get a lot more, like, I feel like we could have more responsive views that could be sidebars, could be modals, and there could be the main page.
Like if you had one where if you wanted to start with the sidebar and you show just like sort of a high level preview, and then if I like hit arrow to expand it out to the left or something like that, it would slide out and show me the full view like in the to-dos.
That's what it is in Notion. It's like a little open beside the title, just like open wide. And what it's doing is going to that page view. You're no longer over something. You've become like just looking at this object right now.
But when you close it, you go back to where you were.
If you back, it retains. You could go back to mobile if you hit back once. And if you go back another time, you could go back to like modal, the modal would close. So you're on the board or the list or whatever. Okay. So it still retains the view you had last. If you go up a whole to full width, you just have to hit one back to go to modal and then.
Yeah, the other thing to think about with this too is when you have the comments underneath the description and you deep link into a comment, then you like we have this problem right now with pagination, and it's not going to be, we can't fix it without changing the UI or the UX. Because like if you deep link into a thread we have to load every single note before we can render and then scroll you to that location. And that's a super like clunky user experience. And so that's why I was interested in exploring the side by side, not just so I could like edit the description while reading comments, but so that we could load them independently, then basically load the description, stuff like that, while we load and point you to the right point in the discussions without having to like auto scroll you. If that makes sense, like, which is a super weird experience right now.
Well, I like the side by side just because you can have access to the title and the description in the same place as the conversation, so you don't have to do so much back and forth. But I like the thought of having both the detail view and the sort of smaller contextual view, but giving the user the ability to choose when they want to do what. You know, I would like to not ever force them to go to a detail view, but I want it to be an option if they have a need to. I think some people feel a little insecure about sharing a link when it's to a thing that is nested within a page. Like, what's going to happen if I send this link? Is it going to pull up my to-dos page with this panel exposed? Is it going to go straight to a page that just has the issue itself or planning object itself? So I like the thought of having both, but I do want to try to create the smaller view in such a way that they don't have to necessarily go there if they don't want to. And that's kind of what I was trying to do in both cases. But great, I don't love this view again. So this feedback is super helpful. And I may still go ahead and explore just putting the comments below in this modal view, just to try to keep things even more simple.
I think that, they'd have to stack at some points for mobile anyway. So like knowing how that will go. And the images are the thing that I'm thinking about, like diagrams, embedded, things like that in the description that are really key. And they'll be smaller here, and you realize we can open a new tab. Is there also a way to have those open over top, almost like a layer that can take that width of the modal again, like some quick view that like just lets you see it better because this is small?
That's a good question too, because I think the design management opens in a modal, doesn't it? Or is it, it's a new page?
It's
in a modal.
And it's always over an issue.
Right. And so in that case, we would have a layer over a layer, which I think feels kind of odd. So in that case, probably what it would do is launch the detail view and then overlay that and take them out of their context altogether. I'll think on that a little bit more.
Yeah,
as long as you use the back to come back, you can come back to the modal again.
I do like that idea.
Yeah, I don't care how it is, as long as I don't have to have lots of tabs open. Like that's the big thing for me. And I also think with the design manager, there's a way to explore. Right now, it's no full screen overlay, but is there a way to, like, that's a perfect example of building the UX for the issue to be extensible, where you have like these apps within the issue view or the planning object view. Like you're gonna have a roadmap, right? Which is on Epics right now. You have your hierarchy tree. What about viewing designs? Like, is there a way to build that into a native experience without doing an overlay across the whole thing? I guess.
And designs could be so tiny here. Like they could just be cute little tiny thumbnails. And then if you could just open them to the width, or any embedded image could just get a JavaScript slideshow view of it where it goes full screen with a little X button. Like there's a lot of
in this view, if you were to have like, let's say you have some of those little design thumbnails in the description, you click on one, maybe it replaces the description with the design image, and then you still have your comments over there to the right of it. So it's almost like the same kind of experience, and then you can just close that out to go back.
The negative feedback that we got though is the designs aren't big enough. They're not that so good. Making smaller in the full screen view would be really bad. They want to see it at 100% of what the design is actually going to be for the app. So it would need to, you'd need to go to the full real estate if you wanted to approve or look at a design.
That would be fine. I would almost like to have like the little sidebar and then the full, like the detail view to be overlaid. You can have the detail view that's the same thing, but like when I want to open it up, it is just like the full width overlay that has an X in the top corner that I can close and go back to what it was before.
You're on a layer above. Yeah, that would work as long as they get the full width so they can like see the app.
Yep.
Well, again, for usertesting.com, I was looking to primarily test side panel versus modal, and then some of the kind of shuffling around of the layouts. It's possible that we'll need to go back and get some additional feedback as we continue to make changes, but I will let you both know once I've got kind of a final proposed design. Again, my goal is to get this done today so that I can go ahead and start getting feedback sooner.
Nice.
And then we can, and actually what I'm going to try to do, or what I'm going to do, is one test for each design initially, get feedback, and then see if there's anything I need to tweak. And so it could be that we'll have feedback, a revision, and then get more kind of bulk feedback on each idea.
A question I had too, this is like philosophical. I was trying to understand why I like the modal more, but so I think the question one a click above is, do I want to interact with this content and see my to-do list? Right? Like the one you had before, right? Like it's like I want to keep seeing my to-do list and work on an issue at the same time. Or do I want to focus on this issue and let the other stuff melt away and like get into the content or a comment? And like the 50 to-dos I have are actually super distracting in that mode. So I almost think that that's an interesting question to explore, is like, do I need to see that noise of the other things? On a board, it might be great because the sidebar view could be useful and I'm moving pieces around on the board, but I'm also getting into the detail. So I almost think there could be a place for both ways to explore these objects.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna riff on that a bit, and it's if you have like a single view app or whatever for the planning object detail view, what you can do then, if it is a modal, you can kind of wrap that with like different sort of elements depending on the context. So like in the to-dos, I would want, instead of seeing all the to-dos, I would just want a navigation thing to say like go to the next to-do. So instead of having to close the issue then click on the next to-do, I can basically just cycle through my to-dos. It's sort of like in Gmail where you have that little arrow in the top just to move to the next or the previous. You can do cool stuff like that. So that's all.
Well, and all I'm showing here is this is all of the places that I identified that you might want to access an issue in particular. But of course, we'll also need to consider merge requests and epics and the different places, incidents where people will want to access those things and how that might change things. But I wondered the same thing, Kristen, about, is it going to be more beneficial to view something where you have brought it into the center of focus via modal, or to view it where you need to keep the context, such as a board? And the board is the first thing that came to mind to me for that.
And maybe it's just a UI switcher where you could say focus mode or docket, like sidebar doc. And then as a user, you could choose, because if you go doc mode, then your other work is front and center.
I like that idea. I was talking with my UX buddy today about this as well, and he was saying that there might be some places, because we have to think obviously globally about this and where else people might want to access other issuables. And he was saying that there might be other places where people don't want that option. So I like giving them the choice of modal or side panel. And I know that Mike had some concerns in the past about it being shared too soon with too many people and getting kind of inundated with feedback. But I think we need to go ahead and start sharing it a bit more widely, because it will have an impact on so many different folks. And I do want to understand other stage groups' thoughts on this and how they could see it impacting their work. So once I've got these prototypes kind of finalized, my goal is to start sharing it in the UX channel and getting feedback there. And feel free to share it as well if y'all have any ideas.
Docked mode could be exciting, because if I could even dock an issue I'm working on almost, and then navigate around like, oh, Gabe talked about it over in this thing, I'm going to go find it. And then I pull up more contacts and then I keep working on what I'm on. I don't know. I know that's not the main use case, but you could pin something as well that you have open that you're working on it, and you just get more insight to other parts around GitLab too.
I was thinking about that with the time tracker eventually, where if people are tracking their time on stuff, it's like always it's persisted wherever they navigate through the app, so they can start and stop their timers.
It's a good idea too.
Interesting.
Fluid views would be cool no matter what. So however we do it, like I don't think we need to lock ourselves in. I think we'll be able to open up to all different ways to view these and use them.
I was just gonna say about sharing more broadly. I would wait until you are comfortable with like I think we talked about this the other day, but like the widget system or how other teams might be able to integrate in a consistent way, and like how like the core like building blocks sort of work. Because I think if you don't, then people are gonna have all sorts of questions like, oh, where do designs live, and how do I integrate vulnerabilities, and how do I do all this other stuff, and then it'll like spur a bunch of questions. So even if you don't have all the details, being like, here's how like the widget type system will work, and how you like we're creating this way for anyone to easily integrate into issues in a consistent or planning objects in a consistent way. That will stave off a lot of questions, I think.
Okay. That's good feedback. I like the thought actually of maybe offering both the doc and a sort of modal version. So I think instead of trying to do two separate sets of tests, one for each, then I'm going to try to combine everything into a single view and give them the option to choose one or the other and get feedback that way, since that is potentially what we would propose anyway. I'll let you both know as progress is made on this today and how it's going. And yeah, that's all that I had for today.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Awesome work.
Yeah, really
Thank
good
you.
discussion.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm excited
Thank
to
you both
hear
for
how
the
it goes.
feedback. We still have about 6 minutes. Is there anything else that we needed to touch on?
I don't think so. Not from my side.
I'm good.
I heard some additional feedback from John the other day after the call, John Hope, and he said he was very excited about this, which is great to hear that people are excited about it.
Yeah, it's super exciting. I think this is going to be massive for usability within Plan. Like I want to use this now. Like if we could just go live.
Ditto.
Well, thank you both for your time, and I'll keep you in the loop.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Holly.
Thank you.
Bye.